What's up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Boleros. Sam here with the Sultan of Sando, Mr. Kaplim. Wala si Maui ngayon. We're going to talk about that the last game of the second round between Ateneo and Adamson. Adamson, for the second time in a row, sealing that victory and getting a chance to make it to the Final Four with a matchup with against UE this Wednesday. But
Mas malaki
Ateneo,
yung bird ng Adamson
mas
today.
malaki bird ng Adam. Malayong mas
Mas
malaki yung
malaki.
bird ng Adam.
Pero, since we won in the first round, so siguro, kasing laki
Pantay
yung mga
lang.
bird.
Pantay lang
yung laki ng bird.
Pantay lang this year. Pero, Ateneo sealing their fate and ending up at last place. The only team that couldn't make it to at least 5 wins. Gab, before we talk about that game, ilang years ka nang nanonood ng UAAP? Alam ko matagal na to, alam kong nakwento mo na. Since when ka nanonood ng UAAP?
Magkaka-age reveal tayo dito sa
Since
amin.
when?
I would say around 25 to 26 years. My earliest memory was, I think, 1999.
1999, earliest memory mo.
Yeah, I was a little kid.
Okay. Anong team ng Ateneo noon? Nung naalala mo pa ba? Nung 19,
Yeah, those were the Enrico Villanueva, Rich Alvarez, the start of that team.
That team.
Paul Tanchi, Epo Kimpo is now the team manager of the Blue Eagles. Wesley Gonzalez was there. Nag-team kalbo pa sila. I do remember that yung under Coach Jole pa.
Hindi ko alam yan.
Yeah.
Coach Joe. So, in the 26 years that you've been watching the UAP, you've been watching Ateneo, is this the first time na nag-last place Ateneo sa standings? Do you remember?
Yep. Ever since, I think, Coach Jole pa took over the Blue Eagle program, I think in 1998 or sometime before that. Ateneo has always been competitive in UAP basketball ever since Jole pa there and si MVP eventually started backing the program. We've always been competitive. The only time we did not make the Final Four was in 2013. 2013 when it was
Kiefer
the first
was
year. The first year after Norman Black.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We were 7-7, did not make the Final Four. The first year of Bo Perasol. So that was the last time we did not make the Final Four, but we've never been last place. But this is the first time, and according to my dad, this is the first time we've ever been last place since 1979. I don't know. Fact check me on that. Search Wikipedia, whatever.
Sir Pong Ducanes, paki-check naman, paki-fact check naman.
Yung pa-fact check naman tatay ko. But my dad said, because my dad was there in 1979 in college, cheering for the Blue Eagles, and he said that we finished 0-12 in 1979.
0-12 in 1979.
Yeah.
Bubble ba yung
we
airpods mo, Gab?
Yeah. Bubble siya.
Okay.
Runs in the family.
Sir Pong Ducanes, paki-fact check naman si Mr. Lim. This is definitely not a good season for Ateneo. So, we'll talk more about that later. Pero let's talk about
it. Depends on what you expected.
Actually, Gab, sinabi mo, I think in your interview with Naveen, na you were expecting a 4-win season, di ba?
Yeah, so, I said na a 4-win season would be what?
Successful
for Ateneo. That would be all right. And we got to 4 wins. I called it.
You called it. You called it. 4 wins. Okay, let's talk about that game before we talk about Ateneo. Ano nakita mo you were there live? How was the game? Like, what happened here? Typical Ateneo Adamson grind it out game.
No, actually hindi, Sammy.
Diba?
Gulat ako. It was not a slow game at all. I expected this to be a ton of missed shots, slow, grinded out game. Scores would be 4 in the 30s in the third quarter. But I think this one of the highest scoring games of Adamson this season.
Oh, nga, no?
I have not checked the box scores or the scores since the first round. But
right.
I think in the second round, at least, this is the highest scoring output of the Adamson Soaring Falcons ever. 69 points. Nice. But this was a very different game. I thought Adamson's game plan in
72.
this.
They had 72 against FEU in the first round.
That's okay, fine. So second to the highest scoring output by the Adamson Soaring Falcons, and I love their game plan coming into this game. It was very different from how they started the game in the first round against Ateneo, where they missed a ton of shots and turned the ball over a bunch. In this game, they looked for pain points, and very apparent in the game. First possession pa lang, yung nakascore na si Cedric Manzano sa loob. And they made a concerted effort to get the ball in the paint, to use their size, because it's not against any team that they have the size advantage, only against Ateneo. In fact, if you would look at the other teams, they probably don't have the size advantage against any other team besides Ateneo. And that was their game plan. They were hunting Espinosa or Bahay in the post. Mm-hmm. They were looking for Cedric Manzano inside. They were driving the ball to the basket. OJ Ojorique got a ton of offensive rebounds, just imposing their size on this Blue Eagle team, because, well, Balogun was out. He was in street clothes. He was not in this game. I think some sort of injury. If you know, please tell us. But yeah, he was not there, and Adamson took advantage. Kyle Ong only played a couple of minutes and was not inserted back into the game. Yeah, so once they started getting paint points, of course, then the natural thing for a defense, if they're getting pounded inside the paint, is to collapse. Collapse the defense, try to prevent those inside points, and that opened up the shooting of Adamson. And listen, they have been cold for some of their games. They have not shot this well. How many threes did they make? 11 threes? 11 threes in this game, and that's the story. They're hot. They were hot from the outside, and they were pounding it inside the paint. So when you can't stop them from the outside, and you're not able to stop them inside the paint, that's a recipe for disaster for the Ateneo Blue Eagles. I love that just Adamson was brought. This is probably the best game they've played all season long. Siguro second, a close contender could be their first round win against UST, but in that game they had a bad first quarter and a bad first half, and they only turned it on in the second half. In this game, they were consistent throughout the game, Sammy. So there's something we've barely seen from Adamson. They have never been this consistent, running the offense, not turning the ball over, and making shots on a consistent basis, because they usually go through really cold streaks. Diba? We've seen this so many times against UST. They went ice cold for 2 quarters. They couldn't hit anything. And for this game, they were hitting shots every single quarter. They were consistent. They were running their offense. Royce Mantua, I love the game he played, man. Just getting to his spot every single time. Again, I said he hunted for Ian Espinosa. Okay, you're gonna put Ian Espinosa on me. We're gonna hunt for this post-up. Joshua Yero, I'm gonna hunt for Jared Bahay. And he got a ton of those shots, just those mini hooks, those mini floaters over the smaller Ateneo guys, and that spelled a ton of trouble for Ateneo, especially in the third and fourth quarter when they started just hitting the threes over and over again. Manu Anabo, my boy Manu Anabo. I had this, one of my underrated players. I think had his best game, best game of the season. 13 points, hit 3 threes. A little bit of storyline in this game was the 2 technical fouls of Jan Kalisay. Yeah. Now, they were warranted. He did taunt Tuanyo after he blocked Tuanyo. So that was a technical foul. And
that means he's not playing in the game against UE.
Yeah, but again, like what I told you guys, he's easily replaceable because there are a ton of other Adamson players who does the thing that he does. Shoot threes, play defense. Manu Anabo can do that. Royce Mantua can do that. Forgot their other guys. See, Carl Alexander, maybe you can pull him from off the bench. Si Eli Ramos, Joshua Aero, AJ Fransman, these are very similar players. They can take over from what Jan Calisay can do. So I'm not worried about that. Again, the ejection was warranted. The delay of game, why did he even do it? Diba? A few seconds just right after he got that technical foul. Diba? So, just a boneheaded decision from Jan Calisay. But again, I don't think that's going to be a problem against UE because they have a ton of other guys that can take his place. A ton of other guys who can do the same thing that he does. So I'm not worried.
Hindi naman parang Tongkara, diba? Nung nasuspend si Tongkara, that was like crucial, or si Precious Momoy. At least si Calisay, not as crucial to this team. Although they lose a vet. Vet din naman si Calisay. Yun lang.
He's a vet and he is another shooter that they can put out there. But yeah, Adamson reserved their best for last. Reserved their best for the Battle of the Birds. And this is twice now. Season 86, as you said, Sam, this is now twice that they've won the last game of the regular season of the elimination round to force a playoff for fourth. Twice now. And I don't know, I'm kind of looking good here because I know my school, Ateneo, just lost, but one of the teams I'm always high on, Adamson, is back fighting for a Final Four slot. So I think I look pretty good. Ikaw yung lose-lose. Ikaw yung hater ng Adamson eh. So
Grabe naman yung hater.
Ikaw naman talaga yung hater ng Adamson. Diba? Yung sabi nga sa'yo ng Adamson fans, ikaw kasi hindi ka naniniwala sa Adamson.
Oo nga eh.
Lose-lose dito. Pero ako pare, yung lose-win. Diba? At least nanalo. Yeah. But I hope they keep this level of shooting against UE because they will need
That's the big question.
That's the big question. Matt Erolon, I thought was spectacular in this game, especially in the first half. Launching threes from out there, getting to his spot in the mid-range, hitting those mid-range jump shots, just catching Ateneo scrambling on defense because they had to. They had to protect the paint and they had to scramble to shooters all over the court. I thought Adamson's ball movement was top-notch in this game, just really looking for the open shooter or the mismatch and just pounding Ateneo. And on the other end, they played, once again, the defense is spectacular for Adamson, holding Ateneo to 32% shooting overall. Before the fourth quarter, they were shooting less than 30% from the field. A bunch of it is malas. They got a lot of good looks. They just couldn't hit it. A bunch of it was also just Adamson clamping down, contesting every Ateneo shot, every Ateneo mid-range, every Ateneo drive. Sayang, the first half, I thought the first quarter, I think they had a good start. The 2-point guards, Espinosa and Bahay, sort of carried this team offensively. 7 for Bahay, says you 7 for Espinosa. 14 out of the first 23 points of Ateneo came from those two guys. I thought they were just finding their spots, getting those jump shots, getting those threes to fall. But napako tayo sa 23. And that's when Adamson sort of built a cushion. And we couldn't get back after that. We couldn't close the gap right after that. And in the third quarter, again, we just went cold. If not for that 5-0 run at the end of the third quarter, Sammy, we would have had a single-digit scoring quarter again. We would have had 8 points in the third quarter. We were down 51-41. Then there was a flurry, a 3 by Bahay, and a layup by Kiteves. And that spelled the difference. But in the fourth quarter, they just responded with their own 7-0 run to extend the lead to 13. And that was the game. Ateneo could not come back. They could not generate enough baskets. And it doesn't help that they were missing from the free throw line as well. They missed already 5 free throws in the first half. They could have had the lead if they made those 5 free throws. We were only down 4. But they continue. Those 2 technicals on Jan Calisay, those 2 free throws they missed.
Bongo and Gamber.
And then Gamber stepped into the line. I thought he was gonna make it. No, he missed it as well. Ton of missed free throws, 50% from the line, 32% from the field, you're not gonna win shooting like that.
I think more or less yan na yung average ng Ateneo. Nasa 50 to 60% from free throw the entire season. We have
Yeah,
to check the
they're
stats
probably
on
the worst free throw shooting team. I'm gonna have to check the stats on that, but I will not be surprised if they are the worst free free throw shooting team. Um, that was just a story. Not enough offense in the second half to make up the difference that the Adamson got in the third quarter. Uh, it's a sad end, but I think if you're Ateneo, I think you'd take the 4 wins. Despite being last place, I think you take it. It's something to build upon. All of our 4 wins were close wins. Wins in the clutch, wins we sort of grabbed in crunch time. So sad end. I'm sad. Obviously, I'm happy for my Adamson Falcons. I'm betting on them to beat UE yung this coming Wednesday.
Whoa.
Oh, trust you said it too nung last episode. You said you were picking Adamson. Yeah. I'm picking Adamson. Si Maui lang ang nag-pick ng UE. Let's see if may isahan tayo ni Maui, pero I'm betting on Adamson. If they play like this again, I think they would have a pretty good chance. Shout out also to OJ, man. I think OJ had a really good game. Just grabbing offensive rebounds, second chance points after second chance. But yeah, he only scored 2 points, but the rim protection, the rebounding, that's what you want from OJ. So, that's it. Good job to Adamson. Congratulations. Again, mas malaki yung bird nyo for this game, for today, but for the season, kasing laki lang tayo, Adamson. But good luck in UE. You would definitely be watching that game. I'm very excited for that. Sammy.
Yeah, I think biggest surprise in this game for me was the 3-point shooting from Adamson. As you mentioned, they haven't been a good 3-point shooting team. But I do remember nung preseason, I think it was a game against I think it was against UP or LaSalle where they also got hot from 3. And sabi mo, Gab, na this Adamson team is going to be scary if they can consistently hit their 3-point shooting. Kasi they're supposed to be they have a lot of shooters actually. If you listed them down kanina, a lot of these guys can shoot threes and can make the three. So, with the defense, I'm not worried about Adamson's defense. They always grind it out. They're always very defensive. They're pesky. I think they will need that against UE, a team that can get hot offensively. But hopefully, they can keep yung momentum sa 3-point shooting. And I think that's how they can beat UE. But I think it's going to be an interesting matchup. Kasi we've had
the last time these two teams played, man, it was a 45-37 game.
Pero in the first round, it was a game winner by Welo Lingo-Lingo.
Lingo-Lingo.
Last year, it was a close
Monty
game winner by Monty Bon right after a supposedly game-winning shot by Jack Cruz
Dumont. Yeah.
So, I think that's going to be an interesting game, and I want to say, is UE Adamson starting to become a mini rivalry?
Apologies to the UE fans and UE Red Warriors. We couldn't get the job done for you. I know you were cheering for the Blue Eagles today, but we lost. I'm sorry, UE. I'm sorry, UE.
Alam ko ba't ka nagsasorry?
They wanted to win because they would get out by Final Four. But we failed you, UE. I'm very sorry. Sorry,
anyway,
what was your question?
Itong Adamson versus UE, is this starting to become like a rivalry, school rivalry between Adamson and UE? Parang I sort of want that to happen. What do you think?
I think historically they've always had close games. They've always looked forward to each other. But yeah, for this generation, for this iteration of both teams, I think there is. I mean, you just mentioned the amount of close games they played since last season. Put me down for it. I think there's a good rivalry here. I think they're very similar teams. They rely a lot on 3-point shooting. Diba? Very similar styles. If Precious Momoway is the post-up guy for UE, si Cedric Manzano yung post-up guy for Adamson. That inside-out combo and surrounded by a ton of shooters, they play very similar styles. Yeah, you put me down. I think there is. And plus, I think there's a mutual respect between these two schools also. I think a lot. The cheering squads are friends. I think the schools, well, they're very close to each other yung in Manila. So,
Schools.
so I think there's some mutual respect there. And I'm excited. We get another game.
We get
an
one
extra
more game. We got one more game this Wednesday. Adamson versus UE. Panorin nyo yun, guys. Hopefully, we're going to have an exciting match. Okay, going back to Ateneo.
Just another note, Sammy.
Mhm.
Eli Ramos got a Pinoy step over Chris Kuhn. You didn't watch that?
Hindi ko nakita. Hindi ko maalala.
His first bucket was a fast break. He got the Pinoy step over Chris Kuhn. Chris Kuhn jumped on the first step. He laid it up in him. The Eli Ramos revenge game The revenge games continue. He does get up to play for the Ateneo Blue Eagles.
Against Ateneo.
If y'all didn't know, he was in Ateneo. I mean, he never made the first team, but the team A. But he was in team B, and he decided to transfer to Adamson. So the revenge game, Eli Ramos. 4 points. I think that's the most he scored in the second round. Probably.
Grabe. But probably true. We saw the last game of Sean Keteves and Chris Kuhn. Anything you want to say about that?
Yeah, I did come on this podcast. I did have a thought on Sean Keteves and Chris Kuhn. Listen, I've been very critical of the two of these guys because I expected a lot from the two of these guys. They were the vets of the season. Since last season, I expected a lot. I mean, for Chris Kuhn, I think a lot of people expected him to take on the role that David Defonso left when coming into season 86, to be that main go-to guy. The go-to guy where you need the bucket, just give it to someone. It was Dave who took over that role successfully or unsuccessfully at times in season 85 and season 84 at times. We expected Chris Kuhn to be that guy. As much as Tab Baldwin relies a lot on ball movement, run through the offense, everyone eats. He does have a main guy most of the time. He does, when the offense is going nowhere, they always go to someone for a bucket. Everyone thought on this podcast, and a lot of Ateneans thought that could be Chris Kuhn. It was Chris Kuhn's time last year. And it's kind of sad that it never materialized. I don't think he's ever going to be that player. Who knows? Maybe in the professional ranks, he just doesn't have siguro that attitude to that yung as Maui would say, yung pagatupang, pagbuakaw, kung minsan baka hindi talaga ganun si Chris Kuhn. He maybe just wants to play make for others, but not someone just to take shots all the time. Sean Keteves, he was nice as a role guy, as a role player, as a guy coming off the bench in season 85. Was probably one of the unsung heroes of that championship. But for a guy who plays 30 minutes a night for 2 seasons straight, medyo lumabas yung flaws niya. And we've been saying it all throughout this season. We've been pretty frustrated with Sean. I think Tab at times was also pretty frustrated with Sean. There were 2 moments a while ago in the game that I recall that Coach Tab called out to Sean Keteves and telling him to shoot it because I think it resulted into a rush shot and a shot clock violation. But so Sean Keteves, the defense is always a good sight to see. He is Coach Tab's most trusted defender. He is very important to that Ateneo defense, but the offense just never came along. It just never did. There were flashes at times. There were times he made shots. He was aggressive, but most of the time he was Tony Snelling out there, just running, doing cardio, not really doing much on the offensive end. And when you have one guy who the defense does not care about, it's kind of hard. Multiple times this season, if you watch teams who play defense against Ateneo, they don't even mind Sean Ketevis. A lot of times, I recall the game against UE in their last win. Uh, they were basically closing out the guy that Sean Ketevis was supposed to pass to, and not even minding Sean Ketevis. So that's kind of hard. But despite all of that, despite my criticisms of them, I am thankful for Sean and Chris Kuhn because they they had a hard job leading a bunch of sophomores and rookies, a bunch of young players for this season, teenagers, a lot of them, and they did it admirably. They leave the UAAP as champions. I mean,
Mhm.
how many players
Hindi
can
mo
say
naman,
that?
you can't take that away from them, di ba?
You can't take away the season 85 championship and a championship which I think is one of the more unexpected
Mhm.
Ateneo championships. We talked about that when that championship happened, when they even made the finals, when they had the number one seed. We were all
Mhm.
surprised on this podcast because we said that this team doesn't have any depth. They
Mhm.
have a good starting five, but their bench was shit. And aside from Chris Kuhn and eventually si Sean Ketevis, yung lumabas ng finals, their bench was non-existent. They always fell off a cliff when their bench came into the game. But those guys provided that bench depth, especially in the finals, and they won the championship against a ton of odds, against a UP team who was essentially intact, defending their championship from season 84. So, uh, I love the two of them. I hope they'll have good professional careers. Si Sean, maybe, I'm not sure if any PBA team would invest a roster spot in a guy who has suspect shooting, but as a defensive specialist, maybe. Chris Kuhn, I'm higher on. I mean, he's a big guard. Where do
Mhm.
you see a 6'4", 6'5" guard? Diba? Uh, I think mm, you can see him playing some international ball. I mean, he
Yeah.
does have the height for it. He does have the skill
Yeah.
set for it. Whether he becomes a star player, I highly doubt that. But the skills are definitely there. Again, a guard, 6'4", 6'5", can handle the ball, play defense, and can shoot. Those are pretty desirable skill sets. So, salute to you, Captain Sean and Chris Kuhn.
One important note no kay Sean and kay Chris Kuhn. Uh we also have to appreciate that they stayed. They decided to stay with Ateneo.
Good point.
Both of them wanted to leave or were supposed to leave earlier, especially si Chris Kuhn, di ba? We heard na Chris was leaving. And I think Sean also had a similar story. But these guys decided to stay. I'm sure they knew that it was going to be a transition period for Ateneo with a lot of the vets leaving. They probably didn't expect it to be this bad. Mason Amos leaving the team, si Fortsky also from last year, 'di ba, leaving the team. But it takes a lot of guts then and a lot of risk for these guys to stay longer in their UAAP careers. Sometimes it doesn't end well, 'di ba? Alam na natin 'yan, Jerome Lastimosa. So, we have to appreciate them for that. Imagine well, maybe they overstayed or they were used too much this season, but it's still I think they still had a vital role to play, especially as leaders or captains of this team, no. So I think they deserve all the thanks and the gratitude from all the Ateneo fans. We appreciate them for all the things that they've done for this team. So, saludo kay Chris Kuhn and kay Sean Kiteves. And good luck to these two guys. Um, Gab, we did this with the other teams. So, I want to ask you again. Now that Ateneo season is over, how would you grade Ateneo's performance? Now, you mentioned earlier na you expected 4 wins. So, they got 4 wins. So, how would you grade them overall?
Well, they are last place in the standings, diba?
Mm-hmm.
So I can't give them a very high grade. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you came into the season with a lot of expectations, I don't know what you were watching in the preseason. This team was winless against UAAP teams in the preseason, except in the
Except
last set in the
UE sa
Taiwan
Taiwan.
in sa Taiwan tournament against UE. But most of their games in Pinoy Liga and all of the games in Pinoy Liga and Phil Oil, they were winless. They couldn't beat anyone, not even teams from the NCAA. So uh, this is tough because they did get 4 wins, which was my barometer for them for a successful season. But I would give them a C. Go just on the borderline of passing and
Passing yun, di ba? Passing ba yung C?
well, in Ateneo, I think D is passing. Yeah,
Oh, okay.
I think D is passing, but yeah, C is on the borderline. I mean, they did get 4 wins, 4 crucial wins. Played spoiler to UE.
Mm.
Beat Adamson in the first round. Beat NU. Beat UST.
UST?
So on their home court, yeah, there was no Tongkara, but they did pull out those wins. And if you see the development from guys like Bahay, I think you would be happy from his development from the first round when he started up until to the second round. You could see the confidence oozing from this guy. Rookie of the year candidate, of course. Uh, but yeah, finishing in last place is not good. It's not good. It's not. Yes, in Tab we trust Coach Tab has done as best as he could to try and will this team to wins, to try and make this team competitive, and we were competitive for a bunch of games, But sometimes the materials are just not there, and we have to look forward to season 88, whether we can whether the young guys we have now can improve, can build on this season. Listen, they were not 1-12, 1-13, or 2-12. It wasn't it
It
wasn't
wasn't
that
US.
bad.
It wasn't as bad as
Oh,
UST in the previous seasons. Ganun na
oh,
lang.
and they weren't winless. They weren't 0-14. Diba? So a C is fine for me. I mean, yeah, I didn't expect much coming into this season. 4 wins is good to me, but it's not great by any standard. If you're an Ateneo fan, especially if you came from years of winning championships, making it to the Final Four, it's not good. It's not great. But from a lens of a fan who didn't expect much because you knew the build up of this team. You knew how this roster was constructed now and how a bunch of these guys are first and second year players, rookies and sophomores. Then getting 4 wins is a sort of a win. So C is good for me. C, Sammy.
Yeah, I agree. For me, pasang-awa, basically, diba? So, C, I don't know, C, sa UP kasi tres yun. Tama ba? Tres yun. So, I would give them a passing mark. You're right. Siguro, depende talaga sa perspective mo, diba? Where you're coming from. If you take a step back, makita mo how bad this off-season was. How bad their off-season was. And how depleted this team was. They basically couldn't play their FSA even. So parang I would count it as a team without an FSA. You won't expect a lot. So makita mo na they get 4 wins against, as you mentioned, some of the good teams. Adamson is battling for the Final Four spot. UE is also battling for the Final Four spot. UST is in number 3. Those are good wins, diba? So, I think if you take a step back, you would say, given the situation, you did a good job. But, I can't help but to feel frustrated when I'm actually watching the games. And, siguro, iba na kasi yung nakasanayan ko na pag pinapanood ko yung Ateneo, diba? It's so frustrating watching this team. Yung lack of offense nga nila. The single-digit quarters, the 50% free throw shooting in every game. dun ako na-frustrate eh. And it was really hard to watch some of the games. So yun yung medyo mahirap about like watching or cheering for Ateneo this season. But sabi nga naman nila, di ba, win or lose, it's the school we choose. Probably, maybe that's the title that we will put in this in this episode. Kasi wala na masyadong positives na mapag-usapan about Ateneo.
No, that's not gonna be our title. Our title is gonna be about Adamson, Sam.
Adamson.
Because
Syempre.
they won.
Of course.
They had the bigger bird. So, sila yung title natin.
So yeah, so I think a passing mark is like the best that you can give for Ateneo, but I wouldn't fight you kung bigyan mo sila ng failing mark. But it was not it was not a good season if you're finishing last place. Pero siguro if you're thinking about the positives, at least the season is over. At least you can start looking forward to next season and looking forward to the development nga of the younger guys. Incoming players, Kimani Ladi was recruited prior to the start of the season. So those are the things that you can look forward to. Big question ko for you, Gab, for this Ateneo team. Do you think Coach Tab will be coaching this team next year? I think he is still signed up until next year, right?
For me, he did say that he's signed until season 88. So, for me, as long as he wants to coach there in Ateneo, I say keep him. No? It's not every day you get a basketball mind like Coach Tab Baldwin. I've seen enough of how Coach Tab Baldwin has coached and how he's game planned and strategized and how players have improved under him to know that he is probably the best tactician in this country right now. I'm sorry, but that's true. The way he coached season 85, most recently the one where we won the championship, I was so amazed by how he just managed the roster, pulled the right strings, and pushed the right buttons, especially during that finals against UP, and just pulled the championship out of the bag. That was he's just a great basketball mind, and I think if these young guys are learning to play basketball under Coach Tab, they'll definitely improve. And Coach Tab has always said his goal, yung winning is a part of it, but his goal is to create professionals out of these young kids. And from the track record, from all the professionals he has brought up to the professional ranks, from all the players that he has made into excellent professionals, whether in the PBA
and a lot
or
of them
abroad.
play abroad. A lot of them end up playing abroad.
I think you will trust Tab even more. Just look at the results over the years. He's just, for me, as long as he wants to be there, keep him there. Now, whether the management MVP want that to happen, that's up to them. But if it were me, I'd just ask Tab, you still want to coach? Okay, just go coach. You gotta trust the results and the process. We lost a ton of guys since season 84, actually. We've lost season 84, we lost a ton of rotation guys. Mamuyak, Belangel, Verano, Tio. Season 85, we lost our whole starting five. Remember that?
Yep.
Nearly except for Kai Balungay, we lost our whole starting five. From season 86, we lost nearly our whole starting five again. Plus a ton of bench guys. So, we've lost a ton of players, a ton of talent has left the Blue Eagles nest since season 84. So, this was bound to happen eventually. Dynasties don't last forever. Just ask the Golden State Warriors. Just ask us Lakers fans. It doesn't last forever. So
this is it. This is the year.
This is we were bound to lose eventually. We were bound not to make it eventually. We can't expect to win every single season, diba? That's not possible. I don't think that's how the ups and downs of a UAAP team of a basketball program go. Sometimes you have to start over, you have to rebuild. And this was a rebuilding season. Keep Coach Tab there. He recruited a ton of these guys. I think a ton of these guys
Good point.
are, I don't want to say, but are attached to him, or they came here to Ateneo to play for him. So I think just keep him there. Trust the process. If eventually he wants to move on to coach in higher level basketball, then maybe that's the time we move on from Coach Tab.
Okay. Anything else you want to say?
Ikaw, would you move on from Coach Tab?
No. Hindi naman natin, tama ka, hindi naman natin ina-expect na championship lagi yung I think nasanay lang tayo with Coach Tab, but his track record speaks for itself, di ba? He has proven time and time again that he can bring out the best in these players and make the most out of a situation. And I wonder, given the situation that we had in season 87, what would have happened if maybe hindi si Coach Tab yung coach? Maybe things could have been worse. I don't know if like any coach could do better than 4 and 10 season, diba? It's kind of hard with so many people losing so many people. Si Mason Amos, si Nieto getting injured. So it's tough. It's tough to handle this team. Again, we said actually 4 wins is it's actually a good win.
If you look at this Ateneo roster, if you look at how they perform in the preseason,
yung preseason talaga.
Diba? The fact that they have 4 wins against teams that are I think pretty much on the same level, diba? That's a win, I think. That's a win for me at least.
Yeah. So I agree. Just keep Coach Tab. But the big question is, gusto pa nga ba ni Coach Tab mag-coach ng Ateneo, and what does management think about that also? Syempre. Anything you want to say about Adamson UE pa? Anything you want to add? You're picking Adamson, obviously.
I think we can preview this a little bit, Sam. We're 42 minutes in. I think we have some time to preview the UE Adamson game. Listen, I think this is gonna be a very low scoring game, given how Adamson likes to play. Now, they did perform really well in today's game. Probably their best game of the season. Given the majority of games they played, I expect it's gonna be a slow game. This was a one-off thing against Ateneo. They do not have the height advantage over Precious Momoway. They won't be able to pound it inside the paint like they did here. They just don't. They're not gonna do that against UE. The key stat is definitely gonna be 3-point shooting. Everyone, if you're just stat watching, not watching the game, just keep your eyes on 3-point shooting and how many 3-point shots are being made, because I think that is going to spell victory for either one of these teams. Whether someone can get hot, maybe si Matt Erolon, Monty Mondibon, who had 0 points in this game, just low-key had 0 points. Manu Anabo, maybe he can replicate this. He'll probably be getting more minutes with Jan Calizay not being able to play in that game. Si Josh Boyero hopefully can hit some shots. AJ Franzman maybe can hit some mid-range. You get some threes going. But 3-point shooting is definitely going to be the main barometer for both of these teams. Sa'yo, Sam, who's going to be an X factor naman for UE? Who do you think is the player to watch that's probably going to lead this team to victory?
Give me John Abate.
Oh, we had the same pick. I picked John Abate as well.
John Abate, He's a great leader. He's been good. Actually, kayo ni Maui nagsabi nito. He's been very good but he's not getting the minutes for some reason. In the second half or in the fourth quarter, he doesn't get to play, but he hasn't been that bad. Other guys kasi that were good in the first round, guys like Ethan Galang, they've been, I don't know what happened, pero they haven't been making their shot. So that's the problem. But John Abate has been one of the most consistent guys on the team. Si Rainier Maga, actually, another very consistent guy. But X factor for me, John Abate. I think this guy, when it matters the most, this guy can step up. So I'm expecting a good game from John Abate. Pero kay Coach Jack Santiago, you have to play your best, guys. This is it. Win or go home na talaga to eh, diba? Do or die. Play your best, guys. Give it to John Abate. Let's just see what happens. So give me John Abate for a good game. Rainier Maga, I would expect consistent din. Pero maybe Welo Lingo-Lingo. We don't know. He did hit the game winner before, so I hope he gets hot in this game. I'm looking forward to like a close game. Sabi mo low scoring pero okay, low scoring pero sana naman lang close exciting game. We see a close exciting game.
I think it's gonna be close. I don't think any of these teams can pull away like what Adamson did here against Ateneo in the fourth quarter. I don't think any of these teams can do that. You know what? I had the same pick, John Abate. Again, it's been pretty weird that he's getting limited run in the past couple of games. He's been starting well in the first quarter, then Coach Jack just forgets about him. I do want to see more of John Abate. He's one of the guys, yung sabi nga namin ni Maui, diba? He can create his own shot. He can get his own shot. So I think you need that. You need that. Him and Rainier Maga, you can do that, and maybe a bit of Gerard Wilson. But you're gonna need John Abate. I'm with you, Sam.
Steady din siya eh. Steady.
Yep. Remember when we picked the team to when we drafted our team to play against UP and Lasal? We all picked John Abate as our point guard because we know he's a steady hand. He's a steady hand, can shoot, can drive to the basket, and he's a big guard too. So hopefully we see more of John Abate in the Wednesday game. I'm not gonna ask for our predictions anymore, Sam, because I think we both picked the same school.
We both picked Adamson. I don't wanna pick against Adamson anymore. I always lose that bet, so I'm picking Adamson. If you're UP, fourth place pala to. If you're Lasal, sino gusto mo makalaban? UE? You wanna get that revenge? Well, they won against UE or Adamson.
I asked this to one of our commenters. I think his handle was Mau Santos, something like that. I asked him if UE or Adamson ba yung gusto niyo. And a lot of them said, well, 2 or 3 of them said Adamson because and I'm with them because for the 2 games this season, they've destroyed Adamson.
That's true. That's true. Nga pala. Adamson has had close games against UP, but tambak sila sa Lasal. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, the size of Lasal is just too much for Adamson. So, if I'm Lasal, I'd be pulling for Adamson to win. Kakampi ako sa dalawang Boleros na to at mag-cheer kami para sa Adamson because I think you'd want to see Adamson there. And UE has beaten Lasal.
Yeah.
So they've shown that, well, it was a fluke of a game as we've seen throughout this season. It was a fluke of a game, but maybe flukes can happen twice. So
Lightning can hit twice ba?
No, diba? So if I'm Lasal, definitely going for Adamson. I'd want Adamson.
Okay. That's it for today's episode. Thank you for all our listeners. Comment down below your thoughts and we'll definitely cover that Adamson versus UE game after Wednesday. So stay tuned for that. Comment, share, subscribe. We'll see you again next time. Si Maui hindi sumama, masyadong na-frustrate sa game kanina. Bye-bye. De, joke lang, Maui. Joke lang, Maui. Bye-bye.